It escalated quite quickly when it just started with a simple camshaft. This is for a Royal Enfield 650 Interceptor or the Continental. This is from S&S, but let's just bring you over to what exactly happened. You can see the cylinder, the head is under here, right there, and the bike is completely torn down. What a fiasco. So this should have been easy, but the problem was doing these valves in the bike is next to impossible unless you have the proper tool to push these keepers down. Well, not the keepers, but the spring cap and the keepers to push them down while it's still on the engine. It's next to impossible unless you have the right tool. Well, one of my keepers popped out and into the engine, so that's why it's apart, but it gets worse. When taking it apart, here's the old cam. It does not look good. This bike is maybe 6,000 miles on it. You can see the journals are not looking so hot, the lobes. If it would focus. Come on. Yeah. That doesn't look too good. You know what I mean? So that's the stock camshaft. To even work on it, I had to undo the whole engine and tilt it forward, including the side frames. And then, in an attempt to hopefully find the keeper, I pulled the oil pan. It wasn't in there. It was actually stuck in an oil galley right up here in this groove underneath the head. So, so that is super fun. But even worse is the carbon buildup. Just absolutely ridiculous. It's really hard to see here. I'll show you on the other piston that I have soaking right here, the carbon buildup, and this was all black. It's starting to eat away. Finally, there was a bunch of buildup on the side that I finally cleaned off. You can see remnants of it, but it's for 6,000 miles. That's stupid. It's ridiculous. Not to mention, there's scoring on the head of this piston. Come on, focus. Come on. Of course, the lights. I'm going to put you down. As I said, there's actually scoring right on this top land of the piston. Very faint because I used some Scotch-Brite, some really dull Scotch-Brite. Right here you can see it. Well, so yeah, I used some Scotch-Brite to clean it up. This was caked. So yeah, let me bring you back over to the bike and just try to show you. And the camera's not focusing now. There we go. I learned my lesson. I'm using a plastic bag now. But you see how black it is, right? It has some very thick carbon buildup on the sides too. See that? That scoring right there? Or not really scoring, but the lines right there. That's what I'm cleaning up. I mean, it's kind of cool that they labeled the ring top standard. That's kind of cool. But that is stupid thick. You can see it right there. And I'll get my keys and I'll show you that the bike doesn't have that many miles. I don't ride it that hard. I don't know what to do. What do you think? Some ideas would help. And it's been serviced from day one. From when I bought the bike with 5 miles on it, I've serviced it at the dealership every time. All the increments. So either they're not doing it or this bike is one of the finicky ones. Probably, I'd recommend changing your oil a lot more than, I think it's 6,000 miles. So let me get my keys. So I was wrong. It has 7,258 miles. But still. And that wonderful buzzing is probably the ABS pump. I know it's going to be having some codes because everything's disconnected. So I learned quite a big lesson. And this is not my first engine. I've torn apart and rebuilt so many different engines. But this just goes to show that even an expert, and I would not call me an expert, will make mistakes. The good thing is, I know I'm jumping all over the place. This is the head gaskets. The head gasket. It's a MLS, multi-layered steel, which means it should be able to be reused. I need to clean it up. It's just, man, this is quite fun. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Let me know what you think. Give me some hints or whatnot. When you do take apart it, make sure that the cylinders, the jugs, whatever you want to call them, they don't rock at all. This gasket is very thin, and once it gets oil on it, it will fall apart quite easily. Here's the old one, and you can see just by rocking the gasket, it squished it out. So I bought a new one, a factory replacement. As you see, I have to get an oil pan gasket and a cam cover, valve cover gasket as well. Clean up all the parts, including the cylinders, just in case. There is some carbon buildup at the very top where the combustion happens. I don't see any scoring, but I'm going to inspect it later. Also the head, I'll show you. Pretty caked. See what I mean? So that, just more. So yeah, the cam kit comes with shims that you put under there, underneath the valve to shim it up, give it more preload. So that's why I was doing all this, is to get those shims in. At this point, I should have just spent the money and had it done at a dealership, because I swear everything happened to all my other vehicles without my bike. So like my wife's car broke down, my car's giving me shit, and now my bike is out of commission. I had no other vehicles. Trying to get to work was fun for a couple days, but fixed them. Now it's back to the bike. So if you do live in the United States and are buying a Royal Enfield, just know that getting parts sucks. I have to get all my gaskets from India. So that's days of shipping. Make sure you have some on hand. I'm going to call the dealership and see if they have a rebuild kit for future reference, maybe when I do a big bore kit. That's going to be way down the road. I'm probably going to do the ECU piggyback programming unit to give it a little bit more fuel. I already have the filter in it, the intake air filter, exhaust system from Tech. It's a really good exhaust. I like it. The air filter is a K&N, which I'm not too happy with, but you know, whatever. Probably is not the best air filter. And then the S&S cam. So hopefully it'll get up and go. I mean, I really enjoy the exhaust. It sounds really good. intake, I noticed almost no gain in power. You can hear more engine noise, but that's about it. So cam it is, because I know this engine really starts to have trouble breathing after like 45,000 RPMs, 4,500, excuse me, to 5,000. It struggles up on the higher range, which is kind of sad because it's a 650. It should really rev up. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, and hopefully next time I'll show you the rebuild process and have it running by then. Sound good? You have a good week.